In this video, you will hear about one of the most remarkable experiences I've ever had as a mother. For 2 months, my daughter, who was just 3 years old, started saying things no one expected, information she simply couldn't have known. There were 5 events that changed everything. An allergy discovered in time, a serious illness detected before it worsened, a boy found in the dark, a pregnancy revealed even before the test, and even a flood warning that saved neighbors. All of this happened while she conversed daily with an image of the Virgin Mary in the school garden. It was something no one could explain, and it still moves me deeply today. If this story touches your heart as it touched mine, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next accounts. Leave a like. This really helps the channel reach more people with messages of faith and hope. And tell me in the comments, what city or country are you watching us from? I'd love to know how far this story is reaching. May this story speak to your heart. I know it sounds crazy to say this, but it all started when my daughter Clara entered school for the first time. She was only 3 years old. She was a quiet girl, the kind who prefers to observe rather than speak. We always thought it was just shyness, you know? But when she started attending the sisters' little school, something strange began to happen. At first, no one noticed anything. She was just a child walking through the garden during recess, stopping in front of a statue of the Virgin Mary. But it wasn't just that. Clara stopped there every day, always at the same time, always with that fixed, calm gaze. And gradually, I realized she was talking to someone. It wasn't a child's game pretending to talk to an imaginary friend. It was different. Clara listened. She would be silent, wait, and answer as if she were having a real conversation. Initially, I thought it was sweet. I thought maybe it would help her open up more. But the first strange thing happened just 2 months into school. There was a birthday party at school, and one of her classmates brought colorful cupcakes. Clara never cared about these events, but that day, out of nowhere, she got up and ran to the teacher. She pulled the woman's skirt hard and said in a serious voice, "Emma can't eat that. It has peanuts." The teacher was confused, and so was I. No one knew about it. Emma's mother assured everyone there were no peanuts, but later they checked the packaging and, in tiny print, it said, "May contain traces of peanuts." Emma had a severe allergy. If she had eaten that sweet, she could have died. No one understood how Clara knew. When asked, she just replied, "The lady in blue told me." That's when the fear began to grow in my chest, because this was no longer a coincidence. After that cupcake day, my mind found no peace. I tried to follow the routine normally, preparing dinner, putting Clara to bed, helping my husband with the bills, but it wouldn't leave my mind. How could a 3-year-old child know such a specific detail that even the girl's own mother hadn't noticed? I even tried to convince myself that it might be a coincidence. Maybe she had overheard something by chance. Maybe. But the truth is, Clara's expression at that moment was not that of a child making assumptions. She spoke with conviction, as if she were absolutely sure. And that's when I started paying more attention to the conversations she had with the Virgin Mary statue in the school garden. The teacher commented that this happened every day at the same time, as if it were a scheduled appointment. And according to her, Clara spoke softly, like someone listening and responding. That gave me a strange chill. The second time something unbelievable happened was with my mother. It was a Monday, late afternoon. I picked up Clara from school, as always, and she came running out of the room, a little breathless, with serious little eyes. She stopped in front of me and said, "Mommy, Grandma is sick. She needs to go to the doctor today." I froze right away. It didn't make sense. My mother lived in Atlanta, over an hour away, and everything was fine with her. We had talked on the phone 2 days before. Even so, something about the way Clara said it made me take it seriously. I called my mother as soon as we got home and asked if she was okay. At first, she laughed. She said she was just a little tired, a bit dizzy lately, but that it must be age. I insisted she go to the hospital that same day. She went. And that night, around 9, she called me crying. She had been admitted to the emergency room, and the doctors discovered a problem that needed urgent treatment. If she had waited a few more days, it could have been fatal. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. Because this was too much. And again, Clara just said, "The lady in blue told me." That night, my husband was silent when I told him what had happened to my mother. He looked at Clara, who was already asleep on the sofa with the television on, and stood still for a few minutes. Then, he said to me in a low voice, "Something is happening, but I don't know what to think." We were always Catholic, but not the kind who go to Mass every Sunday. We believe in God, we pray occasionally, but we never imagined going through something like this, something that cannot be explained. I started to feel torn between gratitude that my daughter had helped save lives and fear that she was carrying a weight too great for someone so small. Clara remained calm. She played, drew, slept well. But that routine of going to the garden and talking to the statue never changed. And the more time passed, the more certain I was that it wasn't just a child's thing. There was something bigger behind it all. And then came the third time. I remember it clearly. It was a Friday, near the end of the school day. Clara's teacher called me at the classroom door before I took her home. She was pale, a little nervous, holding a piece of paper in her hand. She said, "Clara said something today that, look, I don't know how to react." My heart already started racing. And she continued. She put her hand on my belly and said, "There's a baby here, that the lady in blue told her I'm going to have a child and that I'm going to be very happy." The teacher had just taken a pregnancy test, but hadn't told anyone yet, not even her family. And the test had come back positive. She cried there in front of me with emotion and shock. 2 years trying to conceive, 2 frustrated attempts. And now the news came through the words of a 3-year-old child, a child who listened to a woman in a blue dress. After that day, Clara's teacher began to observe her with different eyes. She told me that during recess, she would watch from a distance as Clara sat on the same stone bench, facing the image of the Virgin Mary, as if she were having a serious conversation. She said she never clearly heard what she said because it was always softly, but that Clara would pause, look up, and answer, as if listening to someone speaking to her. The routine was always the same. She would sit, talk for a few minutes, and then go back to playing normally with the other children. That started to intrigue everyone. The nuns commented among themselves. One of them even told me that she had seen many students praying before the image, but never with that frequency and intensity. And it was in this atmosphere that the fourth event came, the most frightening for me, because it involved a missing child. It was late afternoon, the time when parents start arriving to pick up their children. I had just arrived at the school when I heard a commotion in the courtyard. One of the nuns was shouting a boy's name, Ryan. He had disappeared. The teacher started searching the entire school, bathroom, playroom, outdoor area. Nothing. Panic took over. The boy's mother arrived while all this was happening and became distraught. I held Clara's hand and tried to take her away, but she stopped dead. She kept looking toward the school and said, "Mommy, he's in the dark place down below where there are many boxes." I didn't understand. I asked her what she meant. She just pointed to the ground and repeated, "Down below." I went to the principal, repeated what Clara had said, and suddenly one of the nuns turned pale and said, "The basement." It was a place almost no one used, full of junk with a broken lock. They rushed down. And there was Ryan, in the dark, locked among boxes, crying. He had gone in out of curiosity, and the door had slammed shut on its own. No one knew he was there. Only Clara. After that, there was no escaping reality. We caught ourselves trying to find a logical explanation for all of it, but no answer made sense. Clara didn't even know what a basement was, much less that the one at school existed. She had never been there. It wasn't allowed. And yet, she described the place with such certainty that she seemed to have seen it with her own eyes. The principal called me the following week to talk. She said she was worried, but not because she thought Clara was doing something wrong. Quite the opposite. She said that in all her years working with children, she had never seen anything like it. And she was the first person to say, in plain words, what I was trying to avoid. Perhaps a miracle is happening. That gave me the shivers inside, because despite everything I had seen, it was still hard to accept that idea. Miracle. Too big a word. But what else could it be? The fifth time was like the closing of a cycle. It was a Tuesday, clear sky, strong sun. I went to pick up Clara from school, and before even getting into the car, she held my hand and said, "It's going to rain a lot, Mommy. The water will rise. We need to warn the neighbors by the river." I froze. I asked her what she meant. She just looked at me, serious, and repeated, "It's urgent." When we got home, my husband checked the weather forecast. It really was going to rain on the weekend, but nothing out of the ordinary. But after everything Clara had already predicted, I wasn't going to take any chances. We picked up the phone and called 3 neighbors who lived closest to the creek. 2 of them thought we were exaggerating, but one decided to take precautions, and on Friday night, the storm began. The water rose so fast that even the fire department couldn't cope. The houses by the river were flooded, but the neighbors we warned managed to get out in time. One of them came to our house the next day, crying, saying that Clara had saved his family, and we didn't know what to say. After the flood, it became clear to us that all this was not a phase. It wasn't imagination. Clara had some kind of connection to something greater. But at the same time that I felt this reverence for everything that was happening, I also started to worry about the burden of it on her. She was still just a child. She was 3 years old. She didn't fully understand what she was doing or the impact it was having on the people around her. But she seemed to carry everything with a calmness that was not common for someone her age. Even the way she spoke was different, always direct, tranquil, but with a seriousness that made us pay attention. She never had tantrums, never made a drama. It was as if she simply knew what needed to be done. It was then that, one Sunday morning, my husband and I decided to talk to her. We sat on the living room rug while she played with some building blocks, and I asked with my heart in my hand, "Sweetheart, do you like talking to the lady in the garden?" She looked at me and answered without hesitation, "I do. She is good. She takes care of people." Then I asked, "But does it tire you sometimes?" And there, for the first time, I saw Clara's expression change. She became thoughtful, her little eyes started to fill with water, and she answered, "Sometimes there's a lot to remember. My head gets tired." That broke me inside, because it was exactly what I feared, that my daughter was carrying a mission that wasn't hers, that was too much for someone so small. So I asked, with a heavy heart, "Would you like to stop talking to her for a while?" And she said, "I would, but only if she lets me." The next day, I took Clara to school early. The teacher already knew we wanted to give her a break, so she took us to the garden before the other children arrived. The air was cold, and the sun hadn't even fully risen yet. That corner of the garden always seemed quieter than the rest of the school, as if there was a natural respect there. Clara walked slowly to the statue of the Virgin Mary, stopped in front of it, and stared for a few seconds, without saying anything. Then she sat on the same stone bench where she always sat. I stood a little further back, observing, trying not to interfere, and that's when I realized she was really conversing. Her lips moved softly, as if she were explaining something. From time to time, she would go silent, like someone listening. Her expression changed, sometimes serious, sometimes seeming like she was about to cry. I had never seen her like this. It was almost 15 minutes. 15 minutes that felt like an eternity. In the end, Clara slowly got up and walked toward me. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't sad. She seemed relieved. She took my hand and said, She said she will take care of me, even if I don't come every day. And she said it's over, that now I can play. I swear I felt something clench my chest at that moment, as if I myself had received an answer I didn't even know I was looking for. The teacher, who was nearby, asked quietly, "Will you miss talking to her?" And Clara replied with a small, slightly shy smile, "I will." But she said that's the way it is. We left that garden with the feeling that something enormous had ended there, and at the same time, something inside my daughter had been given back to her. In the days that followed, Clara seemed like a different child. She was still the same quiet girl, but now she had a different sparkle in her eyes. She came back from school talking about playing with her classmates, the drawings she made, the books she heard in story time. And the most curious thing, she still walked past the garden, still looked at the statue of the Virgin Mary, but no longer sat down to converse. Sometimes she would stop for a few seconds, observe in silence, and then follow the rest of the class. It was as if she had made peace with something inside her, and I, as a mother, started to breathe better too. I felt that my daughter was finally just a child, not a messenger, not someone tasked with warning others, just a 3-year-old girl living childhood as it should be. The nuns at the school never talked much about the subject again. Clara's teacher continued to follow closely and occasionally told me, "She's doing so well. She seems light." And she really was. At home, Clara laughed more. She started inventing silly songs in the bath, asking for different stories every night. She had returned to being normal. But the word normal took on a different meaning for me after all that, because even though everything had calmed down, I couldn't forget the 5 warnings. The 5 times my daughter predicted the impossible with a precision that still gives me shivers just remembering. Always with that same phrase, "The lady in blue told me." I don't know if it was really the Virgin Mary. I didn't see. But I know what we lived through, and I know that faith became part of our home in a much deeper way after that. I know that to many people it might seem like an exaggeration or even an invention, but those who lived this with me know that there is no rational explanation. The neighbors themselves, the parents of the children involved, the teacher, everyone saw it happen. And even so, it's as if it's hard to believe, because these things you only truly understand when you experience them firsthand. I remember the day Clara went to the garden for the last time to say goodbye. There was no ray of light, no sky opening up, no music playing in the background. It was just a little girl sitting on a stone bench, talking softly to a marble image. And yet, that was stronger than anything I have ever witnessed in my life. There was no fuss. No one commented on the matter afterward. Everything remained silent, as if what needed to happen had already been done. Time passed. Clara grew up. Today, she studies at another school, a much bigger one, where no one knows this story. And she doesn't talk about it. She never mentioned the lady in blue again, nor did she show any desire to return to that garden. Sometimes, when we drive past the old school, I see her looking out the window, in silence. But she quickly changes the subject, and I respect that. I understood that it was a specific time, almost like a calling, and that it had a beginning, middle, and end. And no matter how much I still wonder why Clara, why that way, I also learned to accept that perhaps the answer will not come. And that's okay, because deep down, what matters is not understanding everything. It's recognizing when something greater passes through us, even if only for an instant, and keeping that in your heart. The most curious thing is that, after everything, nothing similar ever happened again. No prediction, no strange phrase, no warning coming out of nowhere. It was as if it had simply stopped, from one moment to the next. And that, for me, was what marked me the most. Because if it were imagination, or some childhood phase, it would have continued in some way. But no. It was as if she had fulfilled a specific mission. And then, silence. Sometimes I think, what if Clara had ignored that impulse to warn about the peanuts or about the basement? How many tragedies would we have lived through? How many lives would have been different? And all this stemming from a 3-year-old girl with a soft voice and an attentive gaze. Sometimes I catch myself looking at her today, already grown up, full of life, and I wonder, does she remember everything? Or was it stored in a place inside her that even she can no longer access? Once at Christmas that same year, my mother-in-law, who has always been very religious, came to spend a few days with us. We were all sitting in the living room, and she asked Clara out of the blue, "Sweetheart, and that lady you talked to at school? Do you still talk to her?" Clara was playing on the floor, surrounded by toys. She stopped for a second, thought, and replied, "She said she listens to me always, even if I don't speak." After that, she went back to playing as if nothing much had been said. My husband and I exchanged glances, but no one commented anything, because what else was there to say? That was enough. It was simple, direct, and at the same time, profound. I think that's how God's things happen sometimes, without noise, without explanation, but leaving a mark that never leaves us. Over the years, a lot has changed, but one thing never changed inside me, that silent certainty that what we lived was real. And I don't say that out of blind faith or wanting to believe in something beautiful. I say it because I saw it. I saw my daughter say things she couldn't have known. I saw lives being saved because of words spoken by a child who couldn't even write properly. I saw a boy found in a basement she had never seen. I saw tears from mothers, teachers, neighbors, all because she said she had talked to a lady in a blue dress. I don't understand how. I don't know the reason. I don't know why it happened to us, but it happened. And sometimes, at night, when everyone is asleep and I'm alone in the kitchen drinking tea, I look out the window and remember those days. The simple routine, the small school, the stone bench, and that girl sitting with her feet swinging, talking to what seemed to be heaven. There was a moment that never left my head. It was an ordinary day, nothing special. Clara was playing in the backyard, and I sat on the doorstep to watch. She was building little houses with sticks and pebbles, distracted. At one point she stopped, looked at the sky, and was silent. I thought she was going to say something, but she just smiled to herself, like someone hearing something good, and went back to playing. She didn't ask me anything, didn't comment anything. She just continued. And there I realized, even if that time of miracles had ended, the presence of that peace had never gone away. It was no longer about predictions, warnings, or surprises. It was about trust. About knowing that, somehow, someone continues to take care of us, even if we don't hear them anymore. A while later, I ran into Clara's teacher at the market by chance. She had already retired. We greeted each other, talked a little about life, and of course, ended up talking about that period at school. She told me that sometimes she still dreams of Clara sitting on that bench. She said that no other student, in all the years she continued there, showed the same type of connection with the image of the Virgin Mary. It was only her, she told me. It never happened to anyone else. And the way she said that gave me a chill. Because, in fact, it seems that it was something unique, specific, as if heaven had opened for a time, just for her. There was no continuity. It didn't become a repeated phenomenon. It was just with Clara. And then, silence, as if the purpose had been fulfilled, as if all that had happened only to prevent tragedies that were about to happen, and then ceased. Today, every time I think about this story, I still get a lump in my throat. Because no matter how much I try to tell others calmly, clearly, there is always someone who reacts with skepticism, with that look of, "You must be exaggerating," and I understand. Because if I were on the other side, maybe I would doubt it too. But I lived this. I saw it happen, up close. Lives were saved. Diagnoses were anticipated. Entire families were preserved. all because of a 3-year-old girl who said she talked to the lady in a blue dress. And you know what moves me the most? It's that Clara never sought attention, never wanted to stand out. She just did what she felt needed to be done. And when it was no longer needed, she simply stopped. As if that gift didn't belong to her, but had been borrowed for a time. Today, whenever people ask me if I believe in miracles, I don't answer with theories. I just tell this story. I tell it the way it happened, without embellishments, without inventions, just the way I lived it. And those who want to believe, believe. Those who don't, that's okay too. Because I know what I saw, I know what I felt, and I know that, for 2 months of our life, something out of the ordinary touched our house. It wasn't a scandal, it wasn't noise, it wasn't a spectacle. It was subtle, it was silent, but it was powerful. It saved lives. It changed my faith. It changed the way I look at the world. And even though my daughter has never spoken to the lady in blue since then, I still feel that somehow she remains close. Not in the same way, perhaps, but present. And that's it. That's how it all happened. It started suddenly, without warning, and it ended the same way. There was no clear conclusion, no explanation. It just stopped, as if it had fulfilled a purpose and gone away. Sometimes I still wait for something to happen again, a phrase, a look, anything. But it never came, and that's okay, because I carry this within me, not as a burden, but as a gift. A living memory that sometimes faith manifests in the most unexpected ways. And that even the most innocent voices can carry messages that come straight from heaven. What we lived in that time was real. And even if I never understand why, I thank God every day that it was with my daughter, that it was with us. If you made it this far, you probably felt the same way I did when I lived this story. What happened to my daughter taught me that faith can manifest in a simple, silent way and still transform everything around it. Sometimes we just need to pay attention. I don't have all the answers, but I know that what we experienced was real. And that's why I'm sharing this account, so that other people can also remember that the impossible is sometimes just waiting for someone to believe. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever gone through something you can't explain? A situation that made you rethink your faith? Tell me in the comments. I will read everyone. If this video has touched your heart in any way, subscribe to the channel here and turn on notifications. This is very important for you to continue receiving real and inspiring stories like this one. And if you want to help this channel grow but don't know how, you can become a member by clicking the Join button. It's simple, and it makes all the difference for us to continue bringing transformative content. Oh, and be sure to watch the next recommended video here on the screen. It's another story that will certainly move you. May God bless you and your family. I'll see you in the next video. Until then,